This is Mike Browning from Nocturnus AD, and you're watching Richard Metal Fan.
Hey, what's up, guys? Episode 263 of Richard Metal Fan Interviews, calling from Zoom, and I'm here with the legendary Mike Browning from Nocturnus AD. So how are you doing today, Mike?
Oh, great, man! I got a bunch of interviews today, so it's been a really good day. And how you doing, Richard?
I'm doing pretty well. It's a lovely afternoon here in Georgia. Looks like it's about to rain, but I'm hoping it stays good today.
263 episodes.
Yeah, I've been doing this for almost 4 years.
That's amazing. That's really awesome.
Hey, thank you, man. Anytime, anytime. So we got some new Nocturnus AD music coming out. We got the new album Unicursal, so coming out very, very soon. Can you talk to me about the whole writing and recording process and how that whole thing came to be and that good stuff?
Well, we put out the last album back in 2019, so it's been 5 years. But the weirdest thing was, as soon as we put the album out, Paradox in 2019, COVID hit. And that, as well as I do, that COVID pretty much stopped the world almost for almost 2 years, and everything just stopped. And it kind of stopped us from doing all the things that we had planned for a little while too as well. And so we started, once everything started calming back down and getting back to normal, we got back together and started practicing normally again and writing. And I'm with our record label, we don't really have a time limit to the contract. So luckily they were good about that and didn't rush us to write the next record. So we wrote it over a lot of time, over a couple of years. We as a band, we only practice once a week, and because we all have jobs, things like that. So we try to get together almost every Saturday that we can. And the whole album was written in the rehearsal room. So we didn't have like one guitar player like writing a song and bringing it in and to a drum machine and going, okay, learn this, which a lot of bands do this kind of thing. And we don't want to do that ever. So everything that's on that album was written in the rehearsal room live with us in there and not planned out. So a lot of times we'll go in there without any ideas, and one of the guitar players will go, okay, let me come up with a riff and just kind of come up with something right off the cuff, and we'll learn it. And then I'll look at the other guitar player and go, okay, now you come up with something real quick, and we'll put songs together that way. And to me, it kind of, not having one person write all the music and bringing it in already kind of finished and thought out into a pattern of a song, it kind of makes the songs a lot different because everybody's putting in their own little personality and their own riffs and parts. Even the keyboard player, oh, I got this keyboard riff, and see if you can come up with a good guitar part to this. So the whole album was written that way. And that, I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And the songwriting, and we start with one small riff, and then it ends up being the whole song.
Yeah. And musically, did you want to continue in the same vein as Paradox, or did you wanted to try something new or different that you haven't done before?
Well, we did a little, basically some of both, but the main thing was to definitely keep the vein going of what Paradox was, because it followed the key. And even though there was a big difference in the whole band, it's a new band, Nocturnus AD, and the key was Nocturnus. But I wanted to follow the storyline from the key, which I didn't do on Thresholds because I didn't sing on Thresholds. So when I put together Nocturnus AD, it was for the main purpose of continuing the key story and continuing what I did on the key. And so when we did that with Paradox, it went over very well, and people were like, this is a great successor to the key, a good next album. And I didn't want to lose any of that, for Unicursal at all. So I definitely wanted to keep with the same kind of formula, but also I wanted to throw in some new elements, which we definitely did do. And so you got to kind of get that mix of old and new in there, but not too much new, but keep that formula of what people like
Yeah.
about Paradox, because that's what I liked about it too. And luckily it worked out that way.
Yeah, and with the Unicursal, because you mentioned you were writing it in the rehearsal spot, kind of like on the go. When it comes to like the writing stuff, how hard is it to like come up with like new and fresh ideas?
Well, it's weird the way we write. It doesn't feel like we're pressured to write a song. We just start with one riff, which is easy to do. And sometimes the guitar player will, oh, I came up with this riff last week, so he'll come in and play it for us, and then I'll try some different drum patterns to it. And a guitar riff can have a million different drum rhythms to it, which can make it sound completely different depending on what you put to it. So when we start building a song, it always starts with just one riff, and then it grows from there. So every song kind of grows in its own way, and it's in it. And I'll try to go back and forth a lot between the two guitar players and the keyboard player. So I try not to let one person write too many riffs in a row. So we keep it constantly changing, a song constantly changing and having different parts to it. And I think that's kind of a big thing of how this album was put together, and why we were able to throw in. Well, our keyboard player wrote a lot of a lot of the parts too on this album, and our guitar player, one of them, Belial, he has a guitar synth thing. So he did some really weird guitar synth stuff on this record. Some of it you would think it's keyboards, but it's actually guitar, and it's a synthesizer uh, pedal ran through his guitar. So it's kind of neat. We incorporated a lot of that. Uh, More keyboard parts. Actually, now this album has some actual keyboard leads, like guitar leads, but keyboard leads. And normally most bands go back and forth between, if they have two guitar players, like your guitar teams, like Kerry King and Hanneman, things like that, and Slayer, and you'll have your two different leads going on in the songs. So we have that, but now we actually even have a couple songs where the keyboard has a lead part too. So you got like three different people doing leads in a row.
Yeah. Yeah, and then of course that if we have like the two singles that are out now, Cephalogod and Yesod, Dark Side of the Moon, which are both kick-ass songs. So I know there's only the 8 more songs that we need to hear. So what's like your favorite song off the new album, and which one is your favorite and why?
Yeah, it's weird because the every song sounds completely different from the next one, and so it was hard for me to pick out. I was liking Yesod a lot, and then we actually started working on a new video for Hode, the Stellar Light, which is the song that comes after that song on the record. And we have a video that's almost finished. It's all CGI animation, and it's no AI. It's all CGI animation, done in the Unreal Game Engine by a real animator. So it's pretty neat. It's Dr. Magus, and it's pretty much what you see the album cover. It's a story using the album cover, and it's real animation. So it's once we started working on that with the animator, I kind of like, wow, this song is kind of become my favorite song now. So to me, I think Hode the Stellar Light, and the video will be coming out in about a week or two,
Yeah.
right before the album release. So to me, I think that's my new favorite song on the record, but it has changed.
Yeah, and of course, like lyrically, I feel like like even with the music is like so detailed and in depth. I feel like like with the music, I feel like you can also have like a great visual representation, like with the videos and stuff. Have you ever thought about like making like almost like a movie or any other like a novel in any other form of media, yeah, to go with the albums?
That's to me, even with Nocturnus a long time ago, a lot of people said these songs are almost like little movies because they're kind of descriptive, and I think the keyboards help give it an atmosphere to the song, to where it feels like you're listening to a soundtrack to a movie almost. And then with the words being descriptive like they are, it would work really well. And that's why I always wanted to have Dr. Magus, the guy on the cover. He's our band mascot, but I always wanted to have him as a real character, whether it be a comic book or a movie or an animation like we have now. And with Paradox, we had Apotheosis come out, the video, and he was animated in that. I had the guy that did the cover for Unicursal. He's a really killer artist, Yui Jarling, and he actually designed Dr. Magus in 3D in a 3D model. So I can use him in a video game. I could use him in a movie, anywhere. And I think I've always had the thing that I'd like to have a video game made
Yeah.
of Dr. Magus, and kind of like with the concept of this album, going through the spheres and conquering each of the spheres of the Tree of Life, and
Yeah.
that would make an amazing video game. I
I would
think.
actually play that. I would actually play that.
I think a lot of people would, it's and it could even like he could be a super villain like in a Marvel movie. So I see a lot of potential and a lot of ideas that I have, but those kind of things take really big backing and really big money. But I would love to find somebody that could build a video game around this concept here that I've got going with Dr. Magus.
Yeah. I would definitely be on that.
And the video we have going now, that's going to be released here in a week or two, the Hode video, it's definitely similar to that. And he's in a game engine. The whole video is being made in the game engine, the same as what people use to create games now. So it's I don't know if you've heard of Unreal, but Unreal Game Engine is what a lot of companies use to make video games these days.
Hmm.
And so the video is being made in Unreal Game Engine. So he's actually like a game character already, and
Yeah.
he's set up for that. So it wouldn't be hard for somebody to make it into a full-fledged game where you'd have levels and bosses to fight and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, like talking about still going about the band Nocturnus, because I've have listened to y'all, and and I feel like you're like the most original sounding death metal, being like the first band to incorporate like, keyboards and synths. And I know there's like the melodic death metal bands from Sweden, like Dark Tranquility and Soilwork and stuff. But I feel like with true death metal, I feel like you're like one of the most original bands to do that. So where did like the idea to come of it to add it to like the sound of Nocturnus?
Well, I think for me it was the fact that I grew up in the 70s, and in the 70s every band that I listened to, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, uh Dio, the early Dio stuff, and Rainbow, all those bands had keyboard players or used keyboards a lot. And Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Rush, you could keep going. And to me, a lot of the bands that I listened to, like say Rush, had keyboards through a lot of their. When I heard Tom Sawyer, I was like, oh my God, this is much more than a song. Because Tom Sawyer, when you hear the keyboards in that, the sounds and everything that's in that song, it brings it to like Rush is like another world. They don't sound like just a band. And so did Pink Floyd. The way they use keyboards, not just to play songs, but they used them for textures, for ambience, to give the songs like a way bigger sound than it would have with just guitar, bass, and drums. So I grew up listening to that all the time. And I thought, well, I love death metal and I want to do death metal too. So why not combine the keyboards with with the death metal, because that really wasn't being done. I mean, bands would put out demos and they would have like an intro that was keyboards, but then the band would start playing and the keyboards were gone for the rest of the song. And I always thought, man, that sounded so good, that intro. And then the band started playing, and where's the keyboards now? What if the band had kept that sound through the whole song with the keyboards going and added that to the music? It would have made the song even better. So I wanted to have that happen in my band, and luckily the guitar player, Mike Davis, and he knew a keyboard player, because I really just didn't know any good keyboard players at the time, and he knew somebody that they all went to school together, And so I said, yeah, get a hold of him and have him write some intros for us, and we'll see what happens. So he wrote a couple intros for a couple songs and came out to our warehouse, and we hooked his keyboards through the PA really loud, and we had him play the intro, and then we started playing the song, and then he started kind of playing along with us, like during the song, like, oh, let me throw this in here and here, and it just started working, and it was like, wow, this doesn't sound like anything else with all this in here in the song now. So that's basically how it got started.
And I was also like doing my research before the interview. I know you also did like a solo album, Mike Browning's Inner Workings Transmission. So how different of a mind frame is it to like doing like solo material compared to like Nocturnus AD or even like past projects like Morbid Angel and Archeron and stuff?
Well, the transmissions, the inner workings thing really was, I love keyboard sounds. Like I said, before, I've always liked the weird keyboard sounds, the more soundscapes, not necessarily, like the piano type sound of a keyboard, but the weird stuff that you can do with them. And stuff like, Welcome to the Machine, Pink Floyd, and the way that Pink Floyd used keyboards, not as a piano, but as a synthesizer with weird sounds. And to me, that was what I kind of, I don't know what I'm playing when I play keyboards. I can play keyboards, but I don't know the notes. I never really learned the notes of a keyboard. So when I play on a keyboard, I'm just kind of doing things by feeling and by ear. And that album, Inner Workings, I had two old keyboards, a Yamaha SY22 and a Korg Poly 61, which are both really old keyboards, 1980s style keyboards. And one night I don't know, I always made weird sounds with them just playing around. So I had this recorder, this Fostex 16 track recorder, and I plugged the keyboards in, and I didn't even know what I was going to do. I just started, and I had each keyboard hooked up to a pedal that was what you call a sustain pedal. So when you hit a note, you hit the pedal and it keeps the sound going. So
Yeah.
I would get a weird sound going with one keyboard, then I would start layering stuff on the other keyboard. And those four songs that are on that CD were all recorded in one night, and no overdubs at all. It just was, I started recording, I just did whatever came to me, and then after about 10 or 12 minutes, 15 minutes, when I felt like I was done, I hit the stop button on the recorder. And I did that four times that night, and I came up with these four pieces of music, totally unrehearsed, no overdubs, nothing. It's just two keyboards and me making weird sounds, basically. So I probably couldn't duplicate it exactly, but I kind of, it was just a thing that happened one night. It was really strange. I don't even know why I did it, but it came out really well. And I had about 45 minutes worth of music there. And I was like, I should, I let some people hear it, and they were like, man, you need to put this out. So I
Yeah.
found a really small guy label that was interested in releasing it. And so I released it, and it sold out like real fast. So I decided, after it sold out, I didn't really want to, I didn't ever repress it. And so I just kind of put it up on YouTube for people to have, just, to listen to. I might do it again sometime. I have to have a certain feeling hit me to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I just can't like half-ass anything.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. If I feel like it, one day I'll plug in a couple of keyboards into a recorder and just do it again and see what happens.
Yeah. And of course you mentioned still talking about the keyboards from like Nocturnus AD and these even like newer bands like Blood Incantation adding sort of like the ambience and then Portal adding also like theatrics. How do you feel like death metal has evolved so far from its origins from where it started in like the mid 80s to where we are now in 2024?
It's amazing what's happened to it. When you talk about death metal in the early days, a lot of the bands did sound different, of course, in the beginning, and then some of the bands started competing with each other and sounding exactly the same. But you also had other bands that didn't want to sound the same, and just took it a little step farther and added this and added that. Like you said, Portal, especially, they were a big one that really took it to another level. And then you had Blood Incantation, that took it to another level with crazy, rhythms and effects and things like that. And to me, that's really cool. I like that because that's what I did with it in the beginning. And there's so many bands that, oh, my favorite band's Morbid Angel, so I want to sound like Morbid Angel. That's terrible to me. I would never want to do a band that sounds like another band. Even the bands that I've been in all sound completely different. And I think it's a good thing in a way that death metal has broken off into so many different categories now. You got tech death, blackened death metal, you
Yeah,
know.
it's insane. Like it feels like it's almost like naming like species of plants in a way.
Yeah, it's crazy that the term death metal has turned into so many different categories. And they really do sound a lot different now, these bands. They do have so many subgenres that of death metal, and they do fit into categories.
Yeah. And
And a
sometimes
lot
it's
of them.
hard to even keep up with.
Oh, unbelievable how many bands there are now that do death metal, different types of death metal. It's good and it's bad too in some ways because some people will only listen to, like, say, blackened death metal, or or if it isn't super technical, they won't listen to it. So in some ways, it's kind of broken it off into so many subcategories that some people will only listen to that one little subcategory, which is not good for the whole death metal in general. But then there's a lot of people who like a lot of different kinds of death metal. So, it's a good thing. I think overall it's good. And I would have like you said, I would have never thought that the term death metal would have broken up into so many different categories and so many different bands. Every week there's like 50 new bands coming out now, it seems like.
Yeah, it's insane.
I can't keep up with it.
Yeah, me either, man.
And it's just that's I like to listen to new stuff, and it's just like every time I turn around, there's like five new bands every day. Like, wow, 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 and the kids these days that are playing this stuff are just incredible musicians because when I was growing up, I only had so many bands that I listened to, and like I said, it was Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, that kind of stuff. But now these kids are growing up starting out with a band like Blood Incantation and going from there. And it's crazy how they've like become such better musicians right off the bat because their
Exactly.
brain thinks this way right off the bat.
Yeah. And then one thing I want to talk about is sort of like the writing, your approach to writing, because being as you're also handle lead vocals. So do you have to like put yourself in a certain mind frame to come up with lyrics, or does lyrics come naturally and organically? Because I know you also touch upon like science fiction. Is there also like a lot of research in hands when creating lyrics?
I mean, it's a combination of both. It depends. Like with the Dr. Mage's story, it started out on the key, and he didn't even have a name on the key. He was just an evil scientist, and the songs weren't even that connected on the key. Like it started out with Andromeda Strain and Droid Sector, but those two weren't even really the same connection of a song, but they kind of connected. And then when Destroying the Manger, I wrote that. The lyrics was like, wow, this is could connect to these two. And then Empire of the Sands was when the lyrics when I wrote the lyrics to that, it was definitely that I wanted to continue from Destroying the Manger as to what happened next with Empire of the Sands. So it started becoming a story. And so Paradox, it continued the story. And I didn't even know where it was going to go myself. I had an idea of what I wanted to do, but I'll start writing some lyrics to a song, and then all of a sudden it'll just kind of like all these new lines will come to me and it'll write itself almost sometimes
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
far as some of the lyrics. Now, some of them, like Organism 46 Beat, that was a story I read on the internet about a Russian scientist in the Antarctic who had a dive team, and they were exploring this river uh, in the Antarctic, and they found this really weird creature, and they ended up capturing it and bringing it back. But I thought the story was real at first, and everybody did. And it turns out the story wasn't really real, but it was really close to the movie The Thing, sort of like, but more of a, instead of in the ice, it underwater found the creature. But when I found out the story wasn't real, I still really liked the story so much that I said I still would want to write a song around this story. So I did. The Ascension Throne of Osiris is another story about a throne that was found in a pyramid that was made of iron, but it was when they investigated the iron, it was made from a meteor. So
Wow.
this chair was made from a meteor, and when it was placed in a room in a pyramid, the air shafts in the pyramid are aligned with certain stars. So on certain nights, when that star aligns with that shaft, it shines a light down into the room from that star. So this throne was placed right under the shaft to where on particular nights when that star would pass by that shaft in the pyramid, it would the starlight would shine down through the shaft and shine right on and light up the throne. So the pharaoh would sit in that throne on particular nights when they knew the star was going to be passing by there and shining that light, and he would astrally travel through that light coming through that shaft to that star, and he would converse with the beings that lived on that star.
Yeah. And also being a drummer, because usually the drummer's job is to like keep the tempo and a beat, otherwise you'll just turn into a entire bloodbath. So as a drummer, do you need to like hear like what the guitars are doing in order to lay down your parts, or do you usually have like a whole drum track written and the rest of the band can write according to that?
No, I do usually wait for them to come up with a riff, but I did kind of get stray off from what you were talking about with singing and playing drums. Um, I did notice just a couple of years ago that I do write the lyrics to the drums more than to the rhythm of the song, more than the melody of the song. So I think that's what makes what I do sound a lot different from a lot of other vocalists. It's more like a chanting that goes along with the rhythm than a singing that goes along with the melody of the song. Most people, when they write a song, they write to the melody, the guitar. When I write lyrics, I kind of write more to the beat, the rhythm of the song. So it gives it more of a chanting kind of rhythmic kind of thing the lyrics have rather than a melodic singing kind of thing. So when I write, I kind of have to write the lyrics to where I feel I can sing and play at the same time, and I can't seem to write outside of the rhythm too much because it's very hard to sing and play drums outside of what you're playing.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And you pretty much answered my next question, because how hard is it to like sing and play drums at the same time? Do you ever have to like like figure it out how you can make it, how you can do on the album is what you can actually do live?
Yeah, that's the main thing. When I sit down to write, we always write the music first, and then I go back and write the lyrics. And when we write a song, we say, okay, this spot's going to have lyrics, this spot's going to have the leads, things like that. This is a bridge where I can put some lyrics, or this is going to be the chorus. So when I write the lyrics, I know where I'm going to put them. I'm just not always sure what I'm going to put there, but I know that it's got to fit in this particular spot. So when I'm writing it, I kind of sit there with a recording of just the music that we make here real quick, and then I listen to it and I make sure that I can kind of go along with it and sing what I'm writing. So that's one thing I do have to do. And then it's really hard, but until I memorize the whole song, and sometimes that's hard to do too. Um, to read, like after I write it, I'll type it out and print it out, and I'll literally tape it to my drum and try to sing and play along with it. And that takes a few times usually.
Yeah.
But I'll usually record it first, and then I'll listen to it a bunch in my car or something, so I can kind of memorize most of the lyrics and how they work with the drums, and then I'll start trying to sing along with it and play. And once I memorize the lyrics, it becomes a lot easier because then I don't have to think about what I'm going to sing, and I just kind of click the sticks and go. Because when I think too much about what I'm playing and singing, I'm behind already.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So
yeah, you're saying.
yeah, well, it's a big thing. You got to memorize the words first to really be able to jump into it and just do it.
Yeah. And of course, like, do you ever also have like a drum your drum set up in a way so you can sing and play at the same time?
Yeah, I did that too. Like a long time ago when I was in Nocturnus, I had a huge drum set. The drums were really big. They were concert toms, and they were like, um, if it was like a 14-inch tom across, it was like sometimes they were like 14 inches wide and 14 inches deep, like down in height. So my drums were huge, and I'm not super tall. So when I'd sit behind my drum set, you could barely see me. And when I would sing, it'd be like, wow, we were watching this band and we couldn't figure out where the vocalist was. He was back behind all these drums. So I kind of redesigned my drum set to where I can be seen a little better.
Yeah, and be
And
simpler.
yeah, well, it's not what I did was I put together a whole set of what they call rototoms.
Yeah,
And
rototoms.
yeah, rototoms instead of regular toms, I use rototoms, and they're really flat, just like rims with a head on it.
Wow.
So yeah, so there's no drum really. It's just a bunch of rims with drum heads on them, and you can spin them and tune them by spinning them and tightening or loosening them. So you can tune them very easily to different sounds, even if you wanted. So, and then my bass drums are old Vistalites, which are clear, like it's like a clear acrylic drum. So my bass, my whole drum set is basically see through now, almost pretty much. It's just you see all the hardware, but you don't see any more drums.
Cool. And so with also like playing live, like how different of a mind frame is it to like playing live as opposed to recording? Are they kind of similar or are they almost kind of like separate?
They're definitely different. I mean, when I record, of course, I don't sing and play at the same time because it's much easier to do it separately. So and plus, when you're recording, you don't want to be singing and having the vocals coming through the drum mics and vice versa. So you don't want the drums and cymbals are very loud, so you can't have that really coming through when you're trying to record vocals. So it does present somewhat of a problem live sometimes because I do play pretty loud, and I use a headset mic, so I don't have to worry about where the mic is and trying to get to it to sing. It's always right there. It's a headset mic, so it just sits right here the whole time. And then I can kind of be more free to move around and play drums and still sing at the same time because you also want to try to connect with the audience somewhat as well. So here I am doing four different things with my hands and legs and then singing, and then I'm also trying to connect with the audience at the same time, look at people, and connect with them while we're playing. So live is kind of a hard thing to do when you're doing this because you got like so many different things going on all at once.
Yeah. So, and kind of like in the end, to sort of wrap things up, what's next for Nocturnus AD? I know we got the new album coming soon. Is just anything else you'd like to promote in terms of like tours and stuff?
Well, we kind of didn't worry about booking any shows for a long time because we really wanted more than anything is just to get this album finished and put it out. So we kind of haven't really booked any shows at all in a long time, and just recording and rehearsing the songs, writing them and recording them. And now that the album's coming out on May 17th, now we're going to look into being able to play shows again. And we have like now we didn't really do a real tour for Paradox or anything either. So we have two full albums of stuff that we've really not even played out live hardly ever. I mean, we've done a few shows here and there and played a few of the songs off Paradox, but we've never played any songs off Unicursal yet. And so we got, when we do play a show, we got to play some stuff off the key, of course, because people always want to hear that. And then we got to play stuff off Paradox and Unicursal. So we have three albums of stuff to pick from. And if we only play 45 minutes, our songs are kind of long. Some of these new songs are like 8 minutes, 9 minutes, some of them. So when you got only have 45 minutes to say for a set, you really got to pick and choose what songs you want to play live. But that to as far as us, we're going to start looking at now that the album's done and will be out May 17th. We're going to look at doing some live shows for sure. And and hopefully some festivals in Europe and South America, things like that. So that, and then we have another video coming out probably in a week or two, right before the album comes out. We're going to have one more video released with another song released, the Hode one I was talking about with all the animation in it. So that I'm looking forward to that coming out because that's going to be really cool.
Awesome. So thank you, Mike, for this conversation. Is just any final words you want to say to the viewers that are watching this to close this out?
Well, I just want to say, thanks for being, listening to my stuff for like 30 years now.
Yeah.
It's
Even though I am 30 now, so I had some other stuff I haven't been alive then.
I know it's so funny to think that I would have never thought I'm going to be 60 in May. And I would have never thought that at 60 years old, I was going to be putting out an album and playing death metal. So you never know what's going to happen in your life. Because when I was 30, you could have never told me I would have been 60 and putting out probably the heaviest album that I've put out
Yeah.
in my life, and playing shows still death metal. Uh, so you never know what's going to happen. You can't say this will never happen, or I don't think this will ever happen, because you just never know. I would have never thought this would have happened. So I
Yeah.
just want to say thanks to everybody that's listened to my stuff over the years and stuck with me and still likes what I do. And to me, having people that stick around for all those years and still listen to your stuff and still pull out the old stuff and love it, it's really a cool thing. And I always want to say thanks to everybody that's listened to my stuff for all these years.
Absolutely. Great words to say, man. So everybody, Mike Browning from Nocturnus AD. See you next time.